Edwards on the drive, goes inside the floor. Scoops it up. Booker brings the boom.
It's a rare Thursday when we can say Booker did not bring the boom last night. Ruled out against the Houston Rockets, but who's not ruled out? Us. We're here. It's Thursday. It's the last NBA slate before the All-Star break. Almost a full week off to ordinarily you would say reset yourself, take a little break, but I'm sure it's just a week for you guys, most of you, to find a way to lose money on table tennis or perhaps some foreign sport that's going on right now that you guys will be all over about in the Discord, and we will be too. Let's not be mistaken. There's not going to be any break here from Run Pure Sports. There is golf this weekend, but before we get to that, there's a 5-game slate. I want to bring in my friends, as always, on Thursday. We'll start with what the people are calling him now, top 5 Travis, not Sweet Travis, top 5 Travis, after a nice run here. You got a couple of top 10s, banging into a 4th place, I think it was last night, 3rd place in the FanDuel flagship. Sweet Travis, how are you? Looks like you got up maybe a few minutes earlier than normal today.
Yeah, always the bridesmaid, man, over here. I've gotten way too many high up finishes, and of course, they had to make it difficult on me. I was sweating it out, and I was like, oh, they'll dribble it out. Nope, Najee Marshall steal to put me to 2nd. So that was brutal with no time left. It was a fun slate yesterday. Hopefully, we can run it back. And yeah, JT, you talked about we got all the different sports going on. We have a NASCAR dual race tonight. So if you want that content, it's up at Run Pure Sports. NASCAR for the next 4 days in a row. Duels, trucks, Xfinity, and then, of course, $500K up top on Sunday. I know you like a tasty prize bowl, JT. And listen, I'm already in regular season form. I started playing Madden Sims on Monday, so I'm ready to go with all these niche sports.
Very good, very good. The last 2 minutes of that game, the last 3 to 4 minutes, actually, of that Dallas game were insane last night. Really good game to watch, DC. Looks like you have been outside enjoying the fresh air of the Denver mountains. It's good to have you back on the Hardwood on Thursday, as always. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing a little bit worse now that I found out that Mangone had a good night on the NBA. So it's, just a little notch down on the happiness scale, but still overall doing
a little bit of a blow to your psyche there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Travis did something good. Right.
We're gonna shake it off. We're gonna move on. Congrats, Travis. It's tough to get first. I mean, even if you get 10 top 10s, you would only expect one of them to be actually first. It feels like, right? It feels like when you get a top 10 team that you deserve to get all the way to the top, but sadly, it doesn't work that way.
DC, this is where I thought I deserved to win and I didn't, and I was very upset. I said to my friends in a group chat, I said, imagine getting 42 from Keon Ellis at 3%, 4% 44-point game from Zeke Nananji, and a 5% Klingon drops 52, and you don't win.
And I'm sure all your friends that lost money while you made thousands of dollars felt absolutely horrible for you. And couldn't.
They're DFS guys too, so they get it. I had to, but it was crazy. The scores last night were absolutely insane, right? Just all around, and it probably won't happen again tonight because it's a 14 gamer. It's not a 14 gamer, but we're going to see some just bad basketball players out.
It was I was just following the games on my phone. I just played 2 lineups on each site, and I'm like, all my players are going off, and I'm not climbing the standings whatsoever. Well, it must have been just everybody nuked, right? And sometimes it's just really hard to get to the top that way.
It was a very high scoring night. It was a very interesting night. I thought there were some good plays. I thought Okongwu was one of the best plays on the slate. He did great that whole game in New York. I mean, if you had 2 on each side, you were pretty happy. I think AP said the optimal last night, which is the highest scoring lineup that you could have, actually had 3 Hawks on it. Of course, that's a game that went to overtime. The Dallas game was good. There were some good games. There were some good scores. The Pacers game, I mean, Jordan Poole another huge game. When nobody plays him, this is what he does. So
I never get him right.
So yeah, it doesn't feel right to click on a wizard. And then we were talking in Discord. We were laughing about some of the plays, and I made fun of Bobby. I made fun of Bobby here because he comes in, he's talking about Obi Toppin. That was before I looked at the slate, and then I was like, okay, Pacers on a back-to-back. And Obi Toppin dropped 50 fantasy points, 52 fantasy points at like 2% ownership. He was in the Millie Maker winner. He was in most of the other contest winners. So you're going to get.
He was in your core. Don't forget to let people know that your core had low-owned Obi Toppin.
My core actually last night was maybe the best one that I put up in a little while. So because it had Brunson, Toppin, Okongwu, Kyrie Irving, and Jared Butler. So, I mean, that was okay. I think Butler the only one in that group that didn't score 50 or more fantasy points. So that's not too bad, but we soldier on to this 5-game slate. Everybody is on a back-to-back. There's some wild stuff here, guys, and we got a little time, so we'll talk about it, right? I've been saying this. This is the way I usually play. I'm always leery of these back-to-backs, and that was the case when we were discussing the Pacers in chat last night is, hey, it's a 14-game slate. This isn't the team I'm starting with, okay? I'm going to start with teams that have pretty consistent rotations that aren't on back-to-backs. Well, today, you have teams with pretty consistent rotations that are, one, on back-to-backs, but two, DC, most of these teams are going to be missing players. And most of them are going to be missing key players. The Dallas guys who played big minutes last night, they're questionable. Miami guys who actually beat the Thunder, that's a big story that on a 14-game slate, no one's really paying attention to. But bad loss for the Thunder here last night. Those guys are questionable. But here's the thing, DC, that I want to talk about. I was just bringing this up in Discord. JSU was talking about it, and you piped in, and I think you're on my side with this. Neither of Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, or Draymond Green are on an injury report for the Warriors. That smells to me like a trap. Like one of these guys is going to be a DNP out of nowhere. And you said it. No one's getting ruled out before lock, but it'll be a situation. And maybe we're wrong because this is a game, all things being equal, 1.5 point spread, total somewhere in the mid 220s, where we'd be like, hey, on a 5-game slate, this is one of our spots, right? But it's very tricky. Talk to us a little bit about your overall sense of this slate, where not a ton to pay up for, but also a lot of guys are going to be missing. There's going to be a lot of news on this slate late.
Yeah, there is for sure. First game of the night here, so maybe people didn't see Kerr. There's a tweet going around. I responded to it, so you can look at for mine if you want. But like he's crying yesterday about the times of the games and having to play it back to back, and the league screwing the Warriors once again. Steve Kerr just constantly crying about something, and he made it seem like one or more of these veterans could end up sitting, but as of now, none of them on the injury report. But we have seen Kerr do this before, right? Where guys aren't even on the injury report, and then they end up sitting after the game locks. Like he doesn't even announce it. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened. I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes really cautious with the minutes, right? And they all play 25 minutes or something stupid. I think that's possible.
Yeah.
That said, JT, I mean, the real information, I think, kind of exists in the betting market. And Houston's only 1.5 point favorites here. If the betting market thought these guys were all going to sit, that line would be way different than it is. So, again, we don't know. This is the first game of the night, so we will have the information. If they all do play, I'm probably looking elsewhere, honestly, on the second half against a tough defensive team. I don't trust the minutes, so I'm not going to play the Warriors guys. I kind of hope they're in, so people do play them, and I don't think they're great plays. And then if they're out, obviously a bunch of Warriors, would come into play that I'm not super excited to get to. So we'll see what Golden State does. Obviously, we'll have that information prior to lock. And then Houston looks good here too, right? Pretty high total, expected to win. Missing Van Vliet, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason. We've got Mr. Amen Thompson coming off, triple-double last night, I believe. Yeah. Played 41 minutes for him. I'm not really concerned about that. I bet he goes out and plays 40 again. So I do like Amen Thompson. I like Dylan Brooks. You're going to get 30, 35 minutes against Golden State below 5K. So definitely the Houston side of this game is the one that I'll have more exposure to. End up sitting out, something like that.
All right. A good point there about the betting market and the 1.5 point total. Maybe, DC, maybe we're looking at the wrong side here, and maybe one of these Rockets is going to get ruled out. You mentioned big minutes for a couple of guys there. I saw that as well. Brett, I had a rare error here. For some reason, I remember thinking last night, wow, this would be a bad loss for the Thunder if they lost to this Miami team. They did not. They won. Thank you for correcting me. My apologies. Travis, we'll bring you in your overall thoughts on the slate. Your thoughts on Golden State. Any thoughts here on players? I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys missing. What's your overall thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, really important news with this game. Like, we at least, I know DC's joked about it. Like, we're going to find out after a lock if these guys are in and out. But, like, we're going to know if, like, these guys are in or not, right? I know Steve Kerr, not happy. DC talked about it.
Wasn't a joke, man, going. I do think there's a chance that they –
I think there's a chance as well. I think it's one of those nights where there's going to be a beat writer that says – Steph Curry and Draymond Green aren't on the court for warmups. It's like, what the hell's going on?
Listen, you can call my take dumb, but don't say it's a joke when it's not a joke. I was serious. I think they're the Warriors.
I think we'll know, like, at least with 20 minutes, right? I mean, I hope at least. Who knows with Steve Kerr? But I know that they're obviously worried because they keep losing games, right? Like, that's obviously a big concern. And if they want to turn this thing around, they need to get the chemistry going and everything. For me, I want to stay kind of – it's hard to break down the Warriors without the information, right? Because I am under the camp of I think these guys sit. I know they don't have questionable tags next to them. I think they do. If they do play, great. I don't need to load up on them, right? This is not going to be a spot where I say – give me all the Draymond Green, Steph Curry, or Jimmy Butler. Like, are they fine plays? Like, sure, you could definitely make a case for it. The problem is it's back-to-back night, like JT said. Every single team is on a back-to-back. And if there's one guy I don't want to deal with when it has to do with back-to-backs, his name is Steve Kerr. So I am going to be very cautious with this team. I'm not super excited about the Golden State Warriors just in general. If you do get these guys out, it's going to change our opinion. That's a great reason to get in the Discord chat and kind of get our thoughts. We talk about it a lot. Like last night, I know I talked up Julian Strawther a lot. He didn't do great, but my point is all these guys in the late games, like, let's load up on them. Let's load up on these guys. And I think that's the case a little bit tonight because we are going to get news, right? Since we think we're going to get news later on, I know it's an hour between the games. JT, a really important thing to note is, why would I load up on Warriors now when I could get some surprise news later that could be more valuable and lower owned? So I'm not super excited about that. I will say I'm excited about Houston. There's some really good plays there. This Golden State Warriors team is terrible on defense, so we can attack them. We attack them with someone like Amen Thompson at 8'6". It feels expensive for Amen Thompson, but again, I'm hoping and expecting we gain value, even more value throughout the slate that I am going to spend for Amen Thompson. I did have him last night, and he was incredible. I'm going to have a lot of him again. He'll be a guy that I'm double the field on. Şengün, it's a pretty good spot for him at 8.5K. Jalen Green has upside, but again, I prefer Amen if I have to pick one or the other. And then Cam Whitmore is an interesting option off the bench that I don't think should be completely ignored. And I want to keep this in mind. There's no Tari Eason in this spot. I do think that usage is really valuable, and it does go somewhere else. You would assume a lot of it slides to Cam Whitmore. I also think it just might slide a little bit more to like the main guys, right? Like the Jalen Greens, the Amen Thompsons, the Şengüns. So that's kind of my overall expectation of this Houston team. It's mainly targeting these studs. And if I go to values, the main value would probably be Cam Whitmore.
Yeah, Whitmore is a guy who played, I think it was 14 or 18 minutes last night. Looks like with Eason out, he's a guy who gets a little bit more run. I think he might be a little popular, but still I like him a bit. And one thing I failed to do as we're talking about this first game, Travis, you're right. 2 games at 8 Eastern, 2 games at 8:30 Eastern, and then the late game at 9 is, Travis, please give us the injury news and notes for the Rockets and the Warriors.
Yeah, I will give you the injury news and notes because everyone loves that. They love when I rattle through it. I will say Jimmy, Curry, and Draymond are expected to play. I don't believe it. Who knows with that team? Steven Adams is actually the interesting one. Last night, he got ruled out for this game. He is actually ruled in, which I do think affects Shengood. I know I'm on the playbook, and someone informed me of that because I missed it. Of course, they're missing Tari Eason, Jabari Smith, Van Vliet, and K-Falix guy, Cody Zeller. So there you go.
All right. We'll move on to the next game, DC. This one, interesting here. Sacramento at New Orleans. The Kings favored by 8.5 points. 235 is the total. That's come down 5 points. Travis, outside of Markelle Fultz being available to make his debut for the Kings, what is the remaining injury news and notes for the Kings and the Pelicans?
Yeah, actually, this is like the actual value that we have right now that's like super important. We're missing Boston, Kane, Olynyk, and Big Zion, right? Zion is a huge piece that's going to be missing, and that's going to open up a lot of opportunity here for the New Orleans Pelicans.
Just the news. I'm not asking you to talk about the game yet.
I know. I wasn't going into it yet. I was just giving you the report, and I was going to tell you the Markelle Fultz stuff.
Zion is out is sufficient for an injury report.
Okay.
Not that he's a big piece. All right.
Okay, I'll save it for my analysis. My apologies, JT.
Any news?
James Hayes.
Yeah. Any news or injury notes for the Kings?
Just Markelle Fultz is available.
All right, DC, talk to us about this game.
I like that. Don't stay in your lane, Mango. We just want you to list off the names and what they're injured with. Don't leave the analysis to. I can't even come at Mango because he did well last night, so I just got to shut up.
You don't know how to treat him. You don't know how to treat him. You're like, oh, wait a second.
Very flustered. I came into the show ready to roast Mango.
He's nice into the contest. You got to actually give him some respect.
I'm pretty motivated to have like big nights now. I think DC's got me motivated. Imagine I go on like a JVC type run and DC just is frazzled like this for months. That's
fantastic.
Gets freaking fourth in one small tournament. He's going on a JBC legendary run now. Okay, Mango.
Listen, he's got hopes. He's got dreams. He's going places.
You gotta dream big, DC. You gotta dream big. I'm trying to chase down JBC. Someone's got to do it. Why not me?
I could list a lot of reasons, but I won't. Back to Sacramento and New Orleans.
Okay. Kings, Pelicans.
Kings and Pelicans, yeah. The Kings have the same guys available as last night, I think, for the most part. Monk, Sabonis, the two that I like, those two guys last night. I think they're really good plays again. And then, like Mango, I hope Mango comes back. I hope he's not just out for good. We'll see.
We can see it. He has done laundry. The laundry basket's empty in the back.
I mean, Zion being out is obviously massive. And I think McCollum, Alvarado, and Trey Murphy, right? Like pretty much all the offense has got to go through those guys. Misi becomes a much better play. And I think this game overall much, much better than Golden State Houston. And, depending on how the injury news shakes out, maybe one of the best games on the slate. So definitely in on this one. I think the New Orleans side is the side to focus on tonight with Zion and Murray out, obviously.
Big news here, Travis, obviously, on the New Orleans Pelicans side. On the Kings side, look, they've got now 4 players that take up a ton of usage that really hard for them to each reach a ceiling in the same game. So for me, I'm maybe limiting the Kings to just one, maybe 2 of these players, just because their prices are up there as well. But what are your thoughts on the Pelicans and the Kings?
Yeah, this is definitely not my favorite spot. I'll tell you, the Kings are a team every single night. I'm like, dude, not give me more than 10% of these guys. Like, it just the pricing, like you said, JT, like, sure. Could DeMar DeRozan go off and be a tournament winner at the 7K tag? Yes, he could, but I just don't want to be that overweight on these guys. Another thing, JT, I'd be curious to get your thoughts, or DC, if you have an opinion on it. Do you guys feel that the new additions are affecting Sabonis's usage too much, where now the price might be a little too high?
I will say this: when you add in a Levine, it's going to take away, because you have 4 guys that are looking for their shot. DeRozan, Monk, Levine, Sabonis. So they're not all trying to get the ball down in the post. Then Keon Ellis, like you mentioned, you had him. I looked at my exposures. I don't think I had any, but that's because I locked Jared Butler and I didn't play FanDuel. So it's just hard. That's what I mean in terms of those guys. Like, I don't want to line up with 3 of those guys.
No.
I think I probably don't even want many lineups with 2 of those guys.
I don't even think I want to have 2 of them. I mean, maybe if it's like a value, like a Keegan Murray or an Ellis, but I don't even like Keegan Murray that much here.
Sure.
I don't like Valanciunas. I don't like Laravia. I mean, Lyles. It's really the main 5 and like Keon Ellis as like the bench guy, mainly because listen, if Keon Ellis is cooking, like they do need his defense, right? Like a closing 5 of Monk, Levine, DeRozan, Keegan Murray, and Sabonis, like you could make the case they're going to sit one of those guys if they need the defense and he's playing well. So it's really, and of course, I mean, Keon was good for me last night. So of course I can easily see myself going back at 4.4K in the same exact matchup. So it's mainly him. And then if I had to pick one, it's probably Monk. Maybe it's Sabonis is fine as like a spend if it's just like a last guy in, but I just think I prefer other spends. Like it's not the spot where I'm dying to get to him. Like, and I look at the other centers that are spend ups. I'd rather play Şengün, who we just mentioned, at the same time instead. So I'm just not looking to load up on the Kings. The Pelicans, though, I mean, that's definitely a spot to load up on. This is the key spot for value right now. Messi and Alvarado are coming in as 2 of the highest owned guys. I'll say this, Bruce Brown played 26 minutes in his debut. In the debut for Bruce Brown, I'm a little nervous about him getting 20% ownership. Sure, he played 26 minutes. If he starts, I would totally change my opinions on everything, and then I would like him even more, but I need to know if he's starting. But Trey Murphy, CJ McCollum, they're 2 of the best spends, obviously. They're going to be really good. I prefer Trey Murphy if I had to pick one. Alvarado is probably my favorite value at 5K, and then probably my second favorite value is Messi. So probably Alvarado, Trey Murphy, and Messi are like my top 3 guys in this game.
All right, let's keep moving on here. If you have any questions in the chat about anything, as always on Thursday, because we have time, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We'll do our best to get to those. Next game is Miami heading into Dallas to play the Mavericks. 217 total. Miami favored here by 1.5. And Travis, there's a lot of news and injury notes for this game. Would you please update us?
Yeah, for Miami and Dallas, this is one of the big ones that we're waiting on. Dante Exum, questionable. Kyrie, questionable. Klay Thompson, questionable. We have PJ Washington. He is out for the rest of the All-Star break. Bam Adebayo, questionable. And we already have guys out. Kevin Love, Terry Rozier, and Andrew Wiggins. So a lot of chances for us to play some guys, JT.
Talk to me about who those guys might be in Dallas and Miami.
Yeah, I mean, for one, if Kyrie and Klay and like Exum miss, man, we are going to have to load up on Dallas guys. And keep in mind, we might not have a starting lineup in time. We might also not have the news. We could have the news, but I mean, it's going to be a good spot. If these guys miss, it's going to be a good spot, I think, regardless for like Najee Marshall and Max Christie. Like, I think if guys are out, they get even better. And the way the current situation is, those 2 guys are good now. I also understand this Oliver Prosper dude is going to pop. He pops every single time. I mean, he popped for me yesterday. Like when I ran all my stuff, JT, I had 80% of this loser. And I was like, I'm not doing that, mainly because I backloaded a bunch. And then I ended up only having like 12%. But the point is, this dude is not as good of a value as projections realize. I'm not a big believer in him. Now, if you tell me Klay is out, right? Kyrie is out, like all these guys, yes, he'll be an even better value, but his ownership will also go up as well. But for me, listen, Najee Marshall and Max Christie are some of the key guys I'm looking at. If these guys are in, definitely a good spot for a Kyrie or a Klay Thompson. Miami, it's definitely a little bit of a tougher spot because Bam Adebayo, 8.1K. If he's out, it's going to clearly be a really good spot to load up on someone like Tyler Hero. I'll tell you this, Khalil Ware would get a massive bump. He would be a premier, like mid-tier value that you would not want to get away from. Kind of like in Okongwu yesterday, right? He would just absolutely nuke, I think, in this spot going up against Dallas, who's not going to have a big man. Jason Kidd said it yesterday. He said everyone's playing center tonight because they don't have any center. So Khalil Ware would absolutely dominate. And then, of course, if like you are missing some of these other guys like the Jovics and the Robinsons, like some of these like Alec Burks and Jaquez could like become good plays, but I need to know who is starting. I think that's like a really important note with this Miami Heat team, and we have to figure out how many guys they have. So kind of waiting on the news there in this game, but we could get some really good values that open up. And also it could go the other way, right? Where good values don't open up and we just feel like idiots because we backloaded a little bit. We'll have to go to some further values that we'll get to.
Hopefully this is the kind of slate where we'll get some of this news well before the first game locks, just because of the setup here. NoFan17 asks if we have any interest in Matkovic for the Pels. He's not a 3K guy anymore. He's now in the mid fours, low fours, at least on DraftKings. He's probably going to start here, and I'll probably have him. I don't know how much I'll have of him, DC. He's not like one of my top tier guys, like we mentioned there. Could be some news here in this Dallas-Miami game. And the last time they were missing a lot of guys, this Kelly started at them for center, and he was min-priced, and he got into the mid-20s. He's a guy you could see depending on how that news breaks. I don't expect Klay Thompson to play. I think I'd be shocked if he plays. Maybe we see Kyrie. Don't know about that. What are your thoughts here, DC, on Miami and Dallas?
I mean, the wheels have just completely fallen off for the Mavericks with obviously the Luka trade. Then Anthony Davis gets hurt. Gafford gets hurt. I mean, look at the minutes Kyrie's been playing. He hasn't played fewer than 40 minutes in 5 straight games. This is the third game of a back-to-back. He played 44 minutes it would have been on Monday, 40 minutes yesterday. I mean, and playing awesome, right? Like really playing good ball. But I don't know. I mean, I got to imagine they probably want to sit him. Christie better than Luka. So, yeah, I mean, if Kyrie, Klay, and Exum all sit, which I do think it's at least possible they go that route, then you have – what are they going to have, like 8 guys, Mangone? I mean, it's a situation where you're going to like have to play, I don't know, at least 3 Mavericks probably in that scenario. Dinwiddie, Hardy. I mean, I like Marshall and especially Christie. I do really like Max Christie. I know that was a joke with the Luka thing, but I do think Max Christie at 5,200 a really good play here. So it's just going to depend on what Dallas does with their veterans. And then I do agree with Mangone also that Marshall to play over Prosper, even if Marshall's coming off the bench and Prosper starts, given the ownership discrepancy, I do like going Marshall in that scenario. Although Prosper 4,800, a fine play as well, I think. And then Miami. I like Miami quite a bit here. I mean, assuming Adebayo plays, again, listed questionable, like Dallas just doesn't have any size on the interior. You'd think Adebayo would have his way. I would like Khalil Ware a little bit in that scenario as well, although he's kind of competing with Adebayo for the center minutes a little bit. And we've seen Ware's minutes sometimes not be there recently. So I'm not sure I want to play those guys together, and I do prefer the Bam side of it. And then I really like Tyler Hero here. No Terry Rozier. They really don't have much in terms of shot making, playmaking outside of Hero and to some extent Bam. So Andrew Wiggins also out, and obviously with the trade guys. So Jimmy Butler. So yeah, Hero looks good to me, kind of in any scenario, but obviously would get even better if more guys ended up sitting for Miami. I think one of the better spends, Tyler Hero tonight. I mean, it's going to be Kyrie and Klay or whoever, or Jaden Hardy or Dinwiddie in the backcourt against Tyler Hero and this defense without an anchor. I think he should be able to get whatever he wants as the primary guy with the Heat. So I think a potential Tyler Hero ceiling game tonight in store.
Tyler Hero ceiling game, says DC. I like that in this game. Once again, any questions, go ahead and drop them. And GoFies has a question, Travis. He wants to know why the wool hat.
I don't know. I've been wearing it for a while and it just sticks. I don't know. It's comfortable. It's nice and comfortable. It fits well. It's cold outside. So yeah, it's the wool hat.
Do you sleep in the wool hat?
I do not. I do not sleep in the wool hat. I do wear it pretty often, but I do not sleep in it. So I'll wear the backwards hat when I go to the gym or I go out, but I wear this a lot at home. I don't know. It's comfortable.
All right. There you go. Go Fies. I hope you enjoyed that response. All right.
There's no real take. It's just, I don't know. It's just, it feels good. I don't know.
So it's a feel thing. It's the way it feels on your skull.
Of course, once it gets warmer, I'm not going to do it. So we don't got too many more months.
Doesn't it make your head itch wearing a wool hat all day? It'd make my head itch.
No, because I have so much hair, I guess is why. I don't know. I think that's part of it too. Like, you know what's nice? When I do get out of the shower, I can push it down, and this keeps it down. So that helps as well. So that's another good.
So it doubles as a comb.
Yes, yeah. I'm not JT. You haven't owned a comb in years, and let me tell you, I haven't owned.
I haven't. I'm not upset.
I would love to know how much percent. DC, do you own a comb?
Yeah.
You own a comb?
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people own combs. I'd say it's a.
I mean, a lot of people own combs.
I don't know about that.
A common
Most people with hair have a comb.
I don't think so. I think it's less than you think. I don't know. I don't like combs. Combs are stupid. Just use your hands.
I was looking for something in our main bathroom today. I will tell you this: my wife has 739 combs.
Well, yeah, she's a
brushes, combs. I mean,
she doesn't have a comb. She has a hairbrush. There's a difference between a comb and a hairbrush.
She has a whole inventory. By the way, thank you, Joe Ruff. I do have a manscaper. So that is sort of a comb if you want to think of it in those terms. Jetty says beta males have combs. Beta males have combs.
He sounds
All right. Next game, Oklahoma City. After that win, that amazing win against the Heat last night. They go into Minnesota where it's very cold, colder than it even is in Denver. So you would definitely need a hat in Minnesota. Thunder favored by 9, 225.5 total. Travis, just the news and the notes here because we're going to start with DC.
Of course, news and notes here. Actually, this is a big one. Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, and Rudy Gobert all questionable. So we need that news. That is massive. So yeah, and then of course the guys that are already out. We know DiVincenzo, Randall, they're out. Alex Caruso, Dieng, and Wallace on the Thunder side of the ball.
All right, big stuff there on the Thunder side. DC, the Wolves have been sucking pretty much. What are your thoughts here, though, on this matchup with the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have been very, very good and now have added Chet Holmgren back in the mix? Looks like they're pretty much fully healthy. What are your thoughts here, even though it is back-to-back?
So you never know, but I do really expect Edwards to play in this game. I mean, TNT game, last game before the All-Star break, at home, hasn't been hurt, right? Hasn't really missed games. It would be weird for him to sit this one out. So I do expect Edwards to be in there. Frankly, I expect Gobert to be in there too, and they need these guys because they're a little bit thin right now. Conley, I could see sitting just because he's ancient. And then obviously missing Randall, missing DiVincenzo. It's a team that plays a tight rotation. And obviously you're seeing Edwards, like he didn't, necessarily come through last night, 47, not going to kill you, but 33 shot attempts, including 17 threes. Game before that, 28 shot attempts, 15 from deep. Getting to the line, I mean, he is doing a lot for this team right now. I am a little worried, JT, about the defense from OKC, right? Lou Dort, one of the best on-ball defenders in the entire league. He's going to be matched up with Edwards, potentially every minute that Edwards out there or close to it anyway. Edwards also third game in 4 nights, played 37 minutes, took 33 shots. You got to imagine he's feeling some fatigue here. So I like the OKC side of this game better, going against my Timberwolves a little bit. I think it's a rough spot for them, honestly. And I think OKC is going to win this game going away. I mean, favored by 9, on the road, tells you a little bit about Oklahoma City here. And they're missing guys too. I know not the same caliber, maybe that Minnesota missing, but Wallace out and Caruso out means they're a little bit thin in the backcourt. I think we're going to see big minutes for Lou Dort, for Aaron Wiggins, who's playing really well. He might be off the bench, but I still think he's going to get close to 30 minutes in this one. I like him a little bit. And then even Isaiah Joe, I think, is an interesting play here. I don't know who's going to play the backup point for OKC. They're missing Caruso and Wallace. So minutes that SGA is out, I think that'll be Isaiah Joe, which kind of adds on to his already, 25-ish minute per game role. So I kind of like these unsung OKC wings. Dort, Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, they're all cheap, and due to the guys that OKC is missing, I think they almost have to play, pretty close to 30 minutes each. So, this is a game I'm mostly going away from the Stars and potentially playing some value on OKC. Obviously, if all the Dallas guys sit or all the Warriors guys sit, the good value could shift away from OKC. But as it stands right now, I do like these value wings, especially for the Thunder. And I'm planning on mostly staying away from the Wolves here. I think OKC handles business here.
Travis, DC likes the unsung heroes for the Thunder. What are your thoughts here in this one?
Yeah, I'm assuming Ant plays as well. I do think it matters if Conley plays. I know he ball handles a little bit, but I do think it matters for sure. Because if he's out, it just brings Ant's just usage absolutely to the moon, right? It's just he's just going to do everything. He's going to play 36 minutes. His floor is really good. I mean, dude, he shot 33 shots last night and shot 30%. And he still got 47.75 DK points. And like I said, he was on the winning team that I had, and he let down. But point is, the floor is just that good with him in this role. I know you're worried about Lou Dort defense a little bit, but I just think the usage is too good to pass up on. So I am interested in Ant, obviously. I do think if Rudy Gobert happens to miss, I mean, really open up some opportunity for Naz Reid, of course. You could also see them go a little bit smaller if Gobert is out and just play a lot more Naz, and maybe Jaden McDaniels just has to play even more, where maybe he plays some small ball lineups with the second unit at the 5, as crazy as it sounds, with the Timberwolves. So I think it would be really good for Jaden McDaniels, and he'd be a contrarian tournament play. If Conley misses, Dillingham will be a value that pops. I know he only played 13 minutes last night. He kind of was terrible, but I do think he's a value that you'll have to make a little bit of a decision on in this spot if Conley does miss. So
is this true, are you tweeting political tweets during the show?
I tweeted one, yes. There's a lady.
We ask you to work 1 hour per day. Can we get your undivided attention on the show for 1 hour? I start talking, you just go tweet whatever is the top of your mind, Mango.
I was looking at my tweet deck at injury stuff or other things in the NBA, and I happened to see someone named Karen complaining. So I just happened to ask if Karen wanted to speak to the manager. That was all. So that's all that happened.
Very upset.
Anyways, I was rudely interrupted by J Ruff over there tattling on me. Let's talk about OKC. OKC is not a team I think we're going to roster a lot of today. I will mention Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't love if you tell me to rank the studs, I don't think SGA is a top stud to spend on. I think Ian Edwards is better and a lot of other options that are cheaper. But on a slate that we're expecting a lot of value, I think SGA is just a fine, hey, he fits, raw points and you call it a day. So he's not someone I would X out of my pool, but he's not a stud that I'm prioritizing. If you play him, I get it. I don't think it's a bad option. I don't like Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and Hartenstein. I just think they all cut into each other. If anything, I would take chances on Aaron Wiggins, Lou Dort, maybe an Isaiah Joe. But like I said, I believe as the slate goes on, we are going to gain more value, and that's going to hurt these OKC plays that maybe we're getting a little bit of exposure now, and then maybe we'll just get no exposure by the end of the slate.
Okay. I had to go look up your tweet, and if I'm being honest, I don't know if that's the type of thing that would have drawn my attention away from the important work at Run Pure Sports.
Her name was Karen, and I just saw her complaining, and so I
think that when people talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, Travis, I think this is what they're talking about. They're talking about taking time away from your important duties to focus on frivolous things.
What if it was one tweet that goes viral and Run Pure Sports, dominates the day? They gotta keep firing, DC.
The tweet was an attempt to own the libs, so it does get points for that. So I'll let it slide this one time.
Yeah. I mean, it was like a simple, would you like to speak to the manager? Her name's Karen. It was a good joke, I thought. I mean, we'll see. It's not going to get all the likes in the world, but I'm just firing. Why not?
You got the other 23 hours to send such tweets. That's my point, Mango. I'm here to talk to you for an hour.
I'm just saying, I'm a tweet that guy, right? I always have it up on the other screen. I'm always looking for injury news and an edge, and I don't know. I think I think TweetDeck is a valuable tool. So that's
Travis with legendary cockiness after his top top 3 performance last night.
To be fair, DC, I could have been sweating Madden Sims because there's a game going on, and I turned it off. So I could have been sweating that out. But I'm listening to you. I'm locked in.
I appreciate the dedication on the not sweating the Madden Sims during the show. That's nice.
Oh, all right. Once again, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We'd be happy to answer them about anything at all, about Karen, about Travis, about the laundry basket, the new painting he got with his winnings from last night. The next and last game on the slate is Clippers at Utah. Clippers favored by 9.5, 228.5 total. Travis, thank you for stopping by.
Travis, I mean, it's just we're
Travis,
Travis,
you Travis, I expect to stay till the end of the show at least.
Yeah. We got another Travis. There's 3 Travises hanging out. It's crazy.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Travis, injury news and notes for this Clippers and Jazz game, please.
All right. Injury news and notes. So Amir Coffey is questionable. We already have Kawhi Leonard out. We got Drew Eubanks, Jordan Clarkson, KJ Martin, and Colin Sexton out. It looks like John Collins, Walker Kessler, and Lauri Markkanen looks like they are off of injury report, and they will play. So that's what we got.
So a couple of things. Someone says replace Mangone with Madison on the next show. I mean, Mangone, first of all, let's talk about Madison. Madison is like John F. Kennedy Jr. I mean, has anyone been around for a shorter period of time that people still talk about as much? I mean, it feels like there's a comparison there. I don't know what it is. I mean, she was with us for a month of interesting tweets, very interesting tweets. Bean still misses it. But Travis, seems like a good spot maybe to take some chances on the guards for the Jazz. Why don't you break down this game for us as well?
Yeah, the Run Pure fam, Lee loves Madison. So
there you go.
10 years from now, when we're still doing these shows and me and Mangone still don't have any background, people will still talk about Madison.
You'll be in the same extended stay hotels and talking about games the same way.
Yeah, man, it is crazy how much he gets talked about. But yeah, let's talk about Utah. I do think it's a good spot for a lot of these guys. Like, listen, I kind of thought maybe with all the doubtfuls they had early in the day that Utah was going to completely mail it in, but they kind of went the other way. And maybe they just battle. They played pretty good last night, and I'm expecting them to kind of battle here again. I don't think Walker Kessler,
Speaking of which, Travis, sorry to interrupt, but this is a game that I do know the outcome. I mean, Luka gets to the Lakers. They have a nice home win, and then they just get trounced their first game on the road. Is it because of the buffet in the visiting locker room that you think that the Lakers lost last night?
It could be. I don't know how the buffet in Utah, but maybe they're quite tasty. I do think it's a good spot though for these guys. Like I said, Walker Kessler. The Clippers, they want to play big, right? They're not doing the small ball stuff anymore. They just play Zubac and they play him a pile of. Walker Kessler's going to match him. So even at 7K, I don't think it's completely crazy to kind of consider him. Lauri Markkanen, he's also 7K. I think he's not as safe. I think he's more volatile. My favorite of the plays, though, is John Collins. John Collins at 6'9". I like his floor and ceiling combination. He's my favorite of the spends with Utah. Let's start talking about the cheap ones. So I think probably my favorite Utah play right now is Keontae George. I just think he plays if the game's competitive, and I think he plays if it's a blowout. It just doesn't matter. So I think it's actually a really good spot for him. So Keontae George, John Collins, 2 of my favorite options. And then from a value perspective, I don't really like any of these options, right? Like Bryce Sensabaugh, that's dead. Svi, I don't need to go there. I just think it's a bad day for the values in Utah. So it's mainly looking at those 6K and above guys. The Clippers, I love the spot for James Harden, right? He is a 9.2K. Could it be cheaper? Sure, but no Kawhi Leonard at 9.2. You could argue his price should be 9.7 or 9.8 in this spot, especially against Utah, where it's an elite matchup. So I like Harden at 9.2. I think he's a good play. I think Zubac at 7.6 is another good option. I mean, there's a lot of spend-up centers that you can play, but I like Zubac a ton. And Norman Powell at 7.4. That's another one that feels like an expensive tag, but he's been really solid. I do think he is another good play that I'll get exposure to. And then the values in this game, I'll tell you this. One guy we have to talk about is Chris Dunn. He is gaining ownership. I know he played 21 minutes last night and then 36 DK points. he feels like not great chalk to me. I'd be curious to get your guys' take on him because I think he's gaining ownership, and I just think there's going to be better values to kind of gravitate towards. And I think they can mix and match these guys, right? They could go to Shitty Bogdanovich. They could go to Derek Jones Jr. They got the new Ben Simmons acquisition, Batum. They just have so many guys that they can mix and match in there that I just don't think Chris Dunn is that good of a play based on the ownership.
DC, thoughts on Chris Dunn as well as the rest of the Clippers and the Jazz, including the guards for the Jazz, who have been in a good spot since Colin Sexton went down, and now they'll be without Jordan Clarkson as well.
Yeah, I'm out on Chris Dunn as well. I mean, anytime you go 5 for 6 from the field, 4 from 3, you get 5 steals, and you're still only get 21 minutes, kind of says a lot. So he's coming off, literally probably the most efficient game of his career defensively and shooting the ball. I'm not going to go to the Chris Dunn if it's going to be chalk, especially. I do really, really love James Harden in this game, though. Most of the players on the Clippers are just so usage. I mean, Chris Dunn himself, but, even Derek Jones Jr. and Zubac isn't really an offensive center. Other than Powell, they just don't – Simmons, who they got. They just don't have a lot of offensive firepower. I think James Harden gets whatever he wants here. And, hey, no strip clubs in Utah, right? So he's focused for the game. He's well-rested. We'll see with James Harden. But I do like him a lot regardless. Powell, I think, is fine, and then Zubac. I really think it's the big three you want for the Clippers. James Harden leading the way for me. And then the Jazz – weren't all these guys listed doubtful this morning? I think they listed like their whole team doubtful. Then they removed them from the injury report. To me, like the Jazz are another team, kind of like the Warriors, where I can see them doing some weird stuff that doesn't necessarily get announced prior to even the game locking and just the minutes being weird. So I'm trying to be cautious with the Jazz. I do think Keontae George and John Collins are fine plays, but there are plays on the slate that I feel are much safer and have similar upside to those guys at those price tags. So I'm mostly trying to avoid the Jazz. Obviously, if you're playing 150 teams like Mangone, you're going to mix these guys in. But 2-3 teams, probably not for me with the Jazz. I do really like the Clippers side of the ball, though, especially James Harden.
Yeah, another good point, too, to talk about, JT, and you like to talk about this stuff. Like, is this a good spot to maybe play max one Jazz, right? Like, I'm not trying to load up on these guys. Like, I'm not playing 3. And another reason why I mention that is, like, if you're someone like me who likes to backload, one thing I've noticed is when I backload too much, sometimes I'm, like, getting, like, a ton of Jazz together. And I'm like, I don't want all these Jazz. That sounds awful. So I make sure before I run it to kind of limit that early on so that just problem doesn't happen or arise later on.
The issue with that is I do think that if this game plays out to where it's competitive until midway through the fourth, or maybe it's competitive the whole way through because they're playing at a slight elevation, they're in Salt Lake City, it is a back-to-back for the Clippers, no Kawhi Leonard. Keontae George and Isaiah Collier they're the guards, right? There's no other guard that's going to get run. So I would say a max of 2 of Collier, George, Collins, Kessler, right? I don't want more than 2 of those guys. And I think you can, maybe go a little bit above the field on the guards, but stay close to the field on the other guys here. Like I'm not looking, I don't think there's a significant edge in playing more of guys like John Collins or Lauri Markkanen or Walker Kessler, right? I mean, I just think you're right. On the back-to-back, especially the Jazz coach is another one of these coaches that doesn't like minutes, right? He's like, got to keep these minutes in line.
It's not like the Jazz are that cheap. Collins, Markkanen, Kessler are all right at $7K. And then Collier and Keontae George are both over $6K. So it's not – they're not a team that's like guaranteed to have multiple guys reach value. These guys could all get around 30 and all bust, frankly, for GPP purposes. It's
a fair point, too, now that the prices have come up due to the injuries. So certainly I think I'm most – I'll have to finalize this before we're waiting on a lot of news. Right now, I would be, if the news breaks that the Dallas guys are out, I'd be max 3 Dallas, max 2 every other team in my 150 set.
Yeah, the reason I say it, JT, and I just think this, like, if you do MME, right, using an optimizer, I do think this matters. Like, those Jazz are mid-tier options, and, like, if you look at the slate, between the Kings, the Pelicans, the Warriors, and Houston, there are a lot of mid-tier guys to kind of, like, that you are going to look the roster. Like, the Kings has a shit ton of those mid-tier guys that we're not excited about, but we mentioned, like, you got to get exposure to them. And, like, if you run the slate and you play a lot of teams, then what? You're going to have, like, 70% Lauri Markkanen out of nowhere, especially, like, if news hits.
I mean, you're not. So, I mean, exposure percentage too, right?
Yeah.
You're not going, like I said, you're not going way over the field on anyone except maybe the guards. And even there, I don't think you're going way over the field. I think maybe just a little bit over. So
I just know if you look at, like, the teams, like, coming up, like as, like, the slate goes on, we could have all values in Dallas. Miami, you could have all values and just spends and values. OKC, we don't even want to play those mid-tier values because it's, like, just crowded. And then Minnesota, it's like Ant, and then again, some of those mid-tier values could be out. So it just could. There are a lot of mid-tier guys early on where then you can end up just being stuck loading up on some Utah. So it's something I'll definitely think about. I've ran into the problem, I'd say, like, a couple of weeks ago at times where I'm just like Scoot Henderson was a great example the other night. I had like 60%, and I liked Scoot. He got injured. There's nothing you can do about it, but, like, I do try to think about that a little bit because I backload a lot, right? I want to take advantage of the news. I think it's one of the biggest edges in NBA DFS.
Fair points there that I can't argue with. DC, any final thoughts on the Clippers and the Jazz?
No, I don't think so. Just the more we talk about it, the more I do kind of want to stay away from Utah if possible.
Okay. Logan May came in late. You guys might have talked about it. Why has Burks been getting 20-plus minutes? It's a great question. There's really no reason for it. But he started a game, and they do have, obviously, the trade of Jimmy Butler, some injuries there as well. I think if he starts, I guess you could play him. But otherwise, it's not like he's been a high-usage guy down there, but he is playing minutes. Thompson or Murphy? I'll probably side on the Murphy side here because as of now, it looks like, they're the team that's going to have more usage to go around, but I think Thompson's fine as well. You guys have any thoughts on the Thompson or Murphy question?
I like both guys, but I'll lean Thompson. I'm just a big fan of his in general in his game, but I think both guys are good plays for sure.
I think both are good plays, JT. My biggest concern with Murphy is if game blows out and gets ugly, which I know the Kings aren't a great basketball team, but I do worry about that a little bit with this team. And I do think at the end of the day, Amon's just going to play his minutes, and the Rockets, they're a clear, like, playoff team that's actually battling. And so that maybe gives me that slight lean, but I like both options. Like, I'm probably going to be overweight on both in tournaments.
All right. So we've covered the slate. We'll give a play of the day, and then we'll go ahead and get out of here. As always, core players are going to be up. Big T's player pool will be up. There will be lots of people, including the three of us, in Discord answering questions, talking about plays, helping people through swaps as the slate goes on. I am going to start, and I'm looking at the slate here, and I'm looking at the centers, and I'm looking at who the options are, and I'm not loving the pricing on many of these guys. I'm never a huge fan of Yves Missy, although I think he's fine tonight. I think the one center who is more likely than not, if there's a center that has a huge game, is Domantas Sabonis. And I know we talked about maybe a little bit harder to get that ceiling game, but he's going to have virtually no competition for the rebounds that he gets. There's no defensive real worries there with Missy, Markovic. So I'm going to go with Domantas Sabonis as my play of the day. He's coming in about 21% owned right now, which for a 5-game slate is not crazy. He's not 3 or 4%. Can't get Okongwu ownership type numbers on every slate. Travis, we will let you go and say who your play of the day is.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on it, but I'm going to go with a guy that I think the minutes are consistent no matter what. I also want to go on the side of, hey, let's backload and get some exposure to some of these later guys. I think Max Christie is a good play regardless of if these guys are in or out. So Max Christie, he's coming in low owned right now, about like 14 to 15%, which is good for a 5-gamer. So give me Max Christie as my play of the day.
Max Christie, DC, the mom's basement play of the day is.
I gotta say, Travis, Max Christie, good call. I like to come after your plays of the day, but I like this one. I will go with Mr. Tyler Hero. I think he's gonna have to run the show for Miami. Love the matchup for him against a very weak defensively Dallas backcourt. I think Tyler Hero has a big game tonight.
Tyler Hero is the play of the day, DC. Tyler Hero, Domantas Sabonis, and Max Christie. You can easily get those into a lineup. So maybe start your lineups with them, or don't do what you want to do. It's fine. It's your cash. As I said, people will be in Discord. Cores will be up. We will be back. Well, we'll be back next Thursday. That will be the next time that you see our friendly faces talking about NBA. There'll be golf shows this weekend. Who knows? Someone may put together an LOL show or something for the people while you spend the NBA All-Star break. Until then, good luck in your contest tonight.